back to another episode of the Crazy Stupid Marketing Show, the show where we talk about all the crazy stupid stuff that people do in marketing and how you cannot do crazy stupid stuff. But this is not just an episode of the Crazy Stupid Marketing Show, folks. This is the 100th episode of the Crazy Stupid Marketing Show, which is crazy. I didn't even realize that until I was doing episode 99, and I was like, oh, this is Wayne Gretzky and then Big 100. Everybody wins. The Canadians and hockey fans get that one, and if you don't get it, then it's fine. We're going to keep moving right along. If you are joining us for the first time on the Crazy Stupid Marketing Show, we are super excited to have you with us today. And if you are not joining us for the first time, we are equally excited to have you back with us celebrating this amazing show that seems to continually have conversations that we haven't had yet about why we're still doing crazy, stupid stuff, specifically in marketing. You can extrapolate that to other places, but specifically, we're going to talk about marketing-related things. But what is marketing-related? If you hang out with Tracy enough, you'll realize that everything is marketing-related, and we will end up talking more about that. First of all, though, if you are joining us live, there is a fancy comments section wherever you are joining us live. And while this might look like a conversation for 5 people, normally 2, you get extra people today, folks, panel conversation. You get 5 of us in the conversation today. We also want you in the conversation today. So if you're joining us live, please get into the chat wherever you are and share with us your questions, your perspectives, your insights, all of the things. Catherine is here. Catherine, good to see you, my friend. Everyone else who is here, because I know I can see people who are here and then people don't get in the comments. So it's just like, get in the comments. It's episode 100. Let's do it. Let's have all of the comments. Can we have 100 comments for episode 100? That is my challenge to the viewers for today, because I have the comments are disabled the StreamYard side, so I can't just fake that. You guys have to do it. Okay, what are we talking about today? Well, we are talking about this concept of generative conversations. What is a generative conversation? I'm going to let us define that as a group once we've introduced everybody. But one of the things that you may or may not know about the show, especially if you haven't been a guest on the show, is that when we pick a topic for the day, there isn't a defined outcome. We're not trying to get to a single destination. We are here to explore ideas. And that's the nature of a generative conversation, is it generates something, but we don't necessarily know what that something is when we go into the conversation. So I can't promise you what is going to happen today, but I can promise you it's going to be worth the ride, and you definitely want to be here for it. All right, before we get into generative conversations, let's learn a little bit more about the peeps who are here to join us in generative conversation today. And I'm just going to go around my screen in clockwise order, because this is what we're taught in school. And we're going to start with John Morley. John, tell us a little bit about yourself and what generative conversation means to you.
Oh gosh. Okay, so the word generative is, for me, it's finding something new in things that we already know, people we know, places we've been, resources we have. It's like, what happens if we scrape under the surface a little bit more? And I probably get that because for all the things I've done in my career, I realized, actually I will tell a story. I had a great former boss I worked for, a guy called John O'Callaghan, and early in my career, he brought his 5-year-old son into work. And he turned to his son, Ben, and he said, "Ben, what do we all do here?" And Ben looked around at everybody and went, "Talk." So I realized I have spent a career talking to people, and it's been huge fun. And there's an inordinate value in there if we maybe show up and be present and listen to it and see what comes out of it. So.
Oh, well, and that's why you're a perfect fit for this show, because this is also what we do here, is talk about all of the things. I mean, it's so weird for me, because I'll be honest with you guys, I'm in conversations with all of these people so often that it's like weird for me that it's all their first time on the Crazy Stupid Marketing Show. So thank you for being on the show, and it's always a pleasure to join you in conversation. John, Jen.
Hi. Thanks for having me. What is a generative conversation? I think it's one where the people in it or the people witnessing it find aliveness in a different way, they connect to something that like makes them sit up a little bit straighter, or gets their curiosity going, or just kind of piques their interest in some way that leads to something that happens outside that conversation. I like the idea of something happening within the conversation, but I think the generative part, or another component of that, is that something happens when that conversation completes, but is connected to it. So hopefully that makes a little bit of sense. But I think that's what generative conversations are for me. I don't know. I'm kind of a slow burn sometimes on the thinking. So in about 7 minutes, I might amend my definition and add something else. We'll see.
I feel like we'll probably completely amend our definition by the end of the show.
We very well may. We very well
may. Because it's a generative conversation and we're going to learn different stuff. Also, I'm going to try and switch Jen and Paul on the screen just because I feel like the way Paul is sitting fits better with the logo. And it's not, well, it's not good. It was cutting off Jen's face.
You want me to do this?
No,
I can do it. Or I can do it. Yeah.
But now I like screwed up my order. So now I'm going to go to Paul, my Christmas sweater partner in crime. Paul, tell us about you.
A generative conversation. Well, let me come at it from a different angle. And that is, what is it not? So where's the agenda, Tracy, and what's the outcome?
I don't know. It's a mystery.
A generative conversation for me is none of that. It's the ability to be able to enter into a very open, flowing, gentle conversation amongst colleagues or even amongst strangers, just to see where it goes. Who knows what will emerge? Who knows where the value will be? Who knows what will happen at the end? But you've all had fun getting there.
I have a question that I will kick off the conversation with that after we learn about John van der Linden, because we can't skip that. So, John, we have 2 Johns. It's not going to be confusing. We're going to
keep it easy. Only 2 this time, though.
Yeah. We had like, what did we have? We had 3.5 earlier.
Yeah, 3.5.
Too many.
Oh yeah, if you include Jen's John, then it was another one.
Generative conversations for me, it's kind of looking for the third alternative, right? I mean, some people get set, we're going to do it my way or we're going to do it the wrong way, right? That's kind of the mindset. But if you can go on and say, Tracy is a well-thinking woman and she has a perspective that I disagree with, then typically if I can get myself to the point of saying, well, that means either she knows something that I don't know, maybe I know something that she doesn't know, or most likely both of us have like half a truth. And boy, if we could then find that third alternative, something that is better than I had in mind, you had in mind, but we come up with. So that's kind of the exciting space for me.
Yeah, actually on this show before it's been referred to as the third mind.
Third mind.
My mind and your mind, and together we make a third mind. And now there's more to learn. Okay, before we come back to the kickoff question, which is gonna be a good one, I want to, because I had a couple people join late. So Catherine is here. We have Matt joining us. Hi, Matt. Good to see you. Dan, and we have Chris that are in the conversation. And for those of you who joined us a little bit late, you might not have heard me say that we're going for 100 comments on this 100 episode. So there's 4 of you here. Do the math. But maybe there's more of you who aren't in the conversation yet. But get in the conversation. It's going to be fun. Okay. So I have at least one thing in all of your intros in terms of directions that we can go. But one of the things that you said, Paul, in your intro was, who knows where that goes? But in this world of ROI, how do we prioritize a thing that we believe? Not even, I don't want to say hope, because hope is different. I believe that there's going to be value generated here versus I know that there's going to be a specific ROI that's associated with this conversation. How do we meander from this defined ROI conversation into a generative conversation?
Well, when you start introducing things like ROI, for me, you're starting to put the agenda together. And you're starting to lay out the outcomes. And once you get into that space, you're starting to stifle the generative nature of that conversation. Because in my world, a generative conversation has to be one where a number of people gather to talk through unstructured, guided, held safe in a space, a conversation which has no known destination, but will emerge in various ways. And from that, value will be created. Something will happen at the end of that. That third mind, that third way, or even the fourth mind or the fourth way, depending on how many people are in the room. But if you start setting out the expectations at the start, I think you're starting to strangle the conversation before you've even got going. Because now people are focused on how do we get to the ROI? And I don't want people to get to the ROI. I want people to get to the value and then think, oh, that's not a bad ROI. We could live with that.
Yeah. I think that's interesting for me because one of the things I've personally been practicing is I'll call it my relationship. I was going to say obsession, but I'm trying to move away from that with like the how, right? So we have this idea of what we're trying to accomplish. And we get so caught up in the like, there's one how that we need to find that will like take us there. But if we allow the how to emerge, then the how actually generally ends up feeling easier. I don't know if that's your guys' experience of that. Jen is nodding her head.
Yes, but I'm being patient as well. Carry on.
No, this show you don't have to be patient. You can just jump in and share your thoughts and opinions.
Okay, then I'm gonna do it. So yeah, okay. So I'm gonna maybe be a little bit like often left fieldish, just because we can, and it might be fun and interesting.
I thought you were going to cause trouble.
And a generative conversation.
Yeah, I'm gonna like stoke the generative fire we have. So I think a generative, or I think how we know that we've had one is linked to something that I call and loads of other people call the felt experience. So we can't always describe it with our minds. It sometimes is elusive with words, but we just know something different happened. Now that's very hard to talk about for people who have not yet experienced it. I liken it to like when you're watching Wizard of Oz, right? It's like it's all black and white, black and white, black and white. And then all of a sudden it's color and you can't unknow that there's color now that's possible. And the felt experience I find operates that same way. For people who've never really had that or maybe never clocked that they've had it, it's just not in their awareness. And all of a sudden they just go, whoa. I don't really even understand what just went down, but something different has occurred and now they can't unsee it. And so for me, that's really tricky to kind of talk your way into. For me, it feels like something you have to really create conditions for, and people experience it on their own. And that's one of the ways that they know, okay, this was valuable to me. So I don't know, a different way in, but that's a big one for me.
John or John?
Do you have any other thoughts? In my mind, I'm thinking of my origin story of meeting everybody here, and it goes back a few years. It wouldn't be me if I didn't mention a book, but Greg Sattel wrote a great book around movements called Cascades, and he talked about how movements form when small groups of people who are loosely connected gather around a shared purpose. And I think setting a shared purpose isn't setting an agenda. But that sense of loose connection really caught my attention because I interpreted that as, ooh, that gives me bandwidth to be creative. And it gives me a reason to go and talk to that person over there who kind of seems to have general interest in the same space. And then I'm kind of an explorer by nature. So I've learned, and I'm going to quote another friend of ours, Martin Knox. Martin has this great little mantra, which I love, which is show up, be present, tell the truth, and let it go. And I think if you have that about you, those are the conditions for all sorts of magic to become present.
I think this concept of loose connection is particularly interesting. I mean, when we're looking at conversations, not so much, but I think a lot of times when we look at the structure and everything associated with doing, especially historic corporate structures, right? We're not creating loose connections, right? We're creating like structure and hierarchy and all of these things that are actually quite controlled and not loose. So maybe I'll throw that at John Anderson. Is that
Yeah,
Yeah, I think I'm having a generative conversation in my head as you speak in the process. But I think there is a bit of a dilemma in my head where, on one part, I think you can only have a real ROR, right? If you, at least as John was indicating, if there's a loss of an overlap, if you can sit together and say, guys, if we could get something like this, that would be fantastic, right? I have no idea how to get there. And then those conversations happen, but they happen towards a goal, right? So part of my brain says that's what it should be. My other half of my brain knows that if I talk to a random stranger, somehow within 2 minutes, you get into something where you can build upon. We find connections.
Yes.
So on one hand, I want it to be structured. On the other hand, I have the realization that sometimes when it's completely unstructured, it gets me very frustrated because I have that corporate background. I want to see where we're going and why. And whatever, but on the other hand, it is also incredibly rich if you can let that go. So that's going to be a conversation in my head the rest of the evening, I'm afraid.
I love it.
I'm
Can I
afraid.
put something onto that?
Yes.
Can I build on? So
Please.
I love that, and I think what popped up for me as I was listening to you, John van der Linden, it's just like there's something becomes possible that wasn't before. I think in a generative conversation. So like the casual conversation with someone in the line at the coffee shop opens up a possibility of connection, a possibility of a shared experience, a possibility of just like friendly banter or unfriendly banter, which opens up a different kind of possibility. But it's like it opens up a door that was there, but we didn't go in yet. And I think maybe that's something that's my first amendment to my first definition, is like generative conversations unlock something that we maybe didn't know was there. There's a new possibility on the table as a result. So thanks for jogging that, my friend.
There you go. Thank you.
Just think about how many generative conversations you have started but not finished. Okay, because your analogy, Jen, of the coffee shop. So you walk in, Morley and I being of Irish origin, one of the things we do pretty well is the old analogy that if you walk into a bar in Ireland and you're not talking to somebody in 30 seconds, it means you're in there on your own. Okay, and that's a pretty damn rare occasion as well, because there aren't many of those that exist. But I have this habit of walking into, I could be standing in a line in a coffee shop or buying a sandwich or whatever, and you start a conversation with somebody and you feel there's a connection there. You feel there's no direction, there's no shared outcome, there's no structure, there's no control, and that conversation is started. And you're starting to get to that position that Jen is talking about, which is you're getting that sort of kinesthetic, that warm feeling coming back, which says there is a connection there. And then you hit your contactless credit card, you take your sandwich away, and the conversation's over. It's done. So how many of those do you have? And how many of those do you have in a work environment where actually you're starting that generative conversation, but something interrupts it?
Yeah, other more important work.
Yeah, thanks for this, because no.
Well, but it's again, I feel like it's like this play between what we've created in clarity of what is a value exercise, right? And if I'll use marketing as an example, right? Like I use this as an example all the time. So brand exploration, the value of that isn't in the brand guideline that gets published at the end, right? The clarity of what is gained through the conversation is the value. The value and the output are not the same. So we can have output that supports the value so that we can share the value and hopefully ripple out that value to wider people. But we get so convinced somehow that the output is the value. And without the output document, right, that there was no value created, and that is not true. And I also think there's like a timeline challenge here, right? Because if you think about the water cooler chats, like water cooler chats are opening doors all over the place. They open doors to I don't know what, Right? I remember having one once with a guy, and we both realized that we black out on roller coasters. We were like, this is a really random thing for us to align on at a work environment. But there was there's still a connection, a relationship between me and that person, even though we haven't like done something together. I was in marketing, he was a software developer, right? Like we haven't worked together on a thing, but there's still an opening. The possibility still exists. And so I don't know that I don't think we'll get to the point where we're like reaching a destination on all of the possibilities, but the more possibilities that exist, the more opportunities exist.
Totally.
As you talk about that timeline, I realize I'm an old white guy, right? So when Paul starts talking about, an Irishman walks into a bar, I think it's the beginning of a great joke, right? That's what I'm waiting for. But I'm a little worried, Tracy, that Paul has this amazing skill that he talks to anybody, right? And now you have a little bit of that as well. And it drives my kids crazy that I get in the line and I talk and connect with everybody. And I'm a little worried if this is something that is a skill that is not as valued and therefore is also disappearing a bit. As if, is the young generation still that easily to take their headphones off and connect with people around them? Or are we losing some of that? And therefore, are there even more conversations not started, even more doors not opened that you indicated, Jen, in the process?
That is heartbreaking to think about. I have to say,
because a bunch of us have young kids, right?
Yeah.
Like I think there's probably things that we're seeing are true in that arena. Although I also think that there's glimpses into that not being true. I mean, but there's even books written about the anxious generation, right? Like we have a whole generation of people who don't connect with other people because they haven't practiced the skill. But I think, again, when we think about ROI, then we're like, oh, well, I can only do that if I'm really good at doing it already. And you're like, well, nobody was born good at, well, we're probably all closer to being good at doing it when we were kids, but like we've been programmed a long way away from that. They're like, sit and be quiet at school, right? Like, heaven forbid that we should be curious at school. That would be terrible. But so then we lose our connection to the questions we would ask and our innate curiosity. So then I'm standing next to a person in line and I might be thinking things. This is one of the challenges I give my clients is like, when you think a thing, just say it. Like you already thought it. It's like authentic to you, right? So if you think someone has a nice scarf, why don't you just tell them that I really like your scarf, right? Maybe it turns into a conversation, maybe it doesn't, but who doesn't like to be complimented, right? I watched a guy's day get changed because we were like walking around the lake and he was wearing like a whole black outfit, but then like bright orange shoes. And when I walked by him, I was like, oh my God, I love your shoes. And he's like, I know, right? These are my favorite shoes ever. And you could just like see, he was like, I don't know what else he was thinking about before that, but he just like, a light got turned on in his day. That's possibilities. Those are the doors. And we like, I think sometimes too, we make the concept of like generative conversation so big that then like, well, I'm just a person. I can't really do that, right? Like I can't create generative conversation, so I just won't. But you could. Anybody could.
You know, that really makes me think of just like this, what I believe to be a basic human need is to be seen and to be known. And so, right, even like what I hear, the thread of like in all these stories is like, I noticed there is another human standing next to me in the line at the coffee shop. I'm going to respond accordingly with kindness and warmth and whatever. Or I'm going to say, those are some banging shoes. I love those, or whatever it is. And it really allows for a different kind of connection that is more about our shared humanity, in my view, than any other like job to be done or like purpose that we're, that we're doing, outcome that we're focused on. It allows for, in what I believe, my belief system says that's natural. That's what we want to do anyway. We want to be seen. We want to make connection. We don't always know what for, but we're just wired to connect. And there are ways that we can do that that are really organic in the coffee shop line that feel really constrained, sadly, in the workplace, right? Or even in our marketing efforts, right? Like, well, can I really be can I be this much of myself, or do I have to be this much of myself? Can I bring my humanity here, or is that like too much? And there's this like dance I feel like people are in, especially leaders, who are trying to really wonder, how much of my humanity can I bring actually into my day-to-day and into how I show up? And that I think is, I think it's a beautiful opportunity, but it can also be a really paralyzing place for a lot of people.
I'm building on something. I've seen a couple of things here. I loved in the comments Andrew's comment about the sliding door moments.
Yeah.
And I'm probably, as I get older, learning a little bit more to try and notice these things.
Mm-hmm.
I read recently that conversations are organic. And Jen, what I'm picking up, not from you, but what it triggered for me was how much of our workplaces are now they're mechanized, right? We're all parts of the machine.
Yeah.
And when you do that, you lose a couple of things. You lose that sense of exploration. When you lose the exploration, you lose the organic nature of how people come together. And I know that doesn't necessarily have an explicit ROI, but not everything is explicit. There's, even in software, we used to talk about middleware in the old days, right? It was the stuff that sat between the layers to make it all work. If we de-emphasize it and insist on putting a hard metric on everything, well, then we actually lose our pathway to those sliding door moments and that value that can surprise us all. And I find myself, the more mechanized the environments I'm in become, the more I am pushing back against them. Again, Jen, to your sense of the felt experience, which is why I found all you lot, because you keep doing the same. But I that's for me is like, the more locked down everything becomes, the more I'm curious about what people are doing and what they're up to with those orange shoes.
Okay, so let me ask you guys this, because weird that an authenticity vibe is coming up for me, right? But one of the things I think about is if you're Christopher Columbus, right, and you want to go find something new, you go where no one else has gone before, right? Mm-hmm. Like there's this belief, or like space, right? If we're going to space, right? Like we know we don't know what's up there, right? But we're going to explore that because we're trying to go somewhere where we haven't been. But at the same time, we are trying to just find someone else's path to get to where we're going, right? And there's been a lot of businesses, there's a lot of marketing organizations that sell this as the solution, right? I know how to get you there. So all you need is for me to come in and implement my email marketing program and you will get to exactly where you need to go, right? And the thing is that when we're in this place where we're like, okay, this is where we are and this is where we want to go, but we have never gone there before. To me, it's very clear that the path is, how do we figure out how we go there? But instead of doing that, we fill it with, okay, who else has gone there? And I'll just do what they did because that is seemingly easier. What do you guys think about this? Like, instead of us going on the exploration and like building the skill of being an explorer, where we're constantly out there looking for someone else to give us the answer. Because that's not a generative conversation, right? If I'm like, I know exactly what I need a marketing strategy, you deliver it to me. And someone's like, okay, here it is. That's not a generative conversation. Nothing new existed in that at all. So now you're just rolling the dice as to whether or not that's going to work for you. And we're rolling the dice with like lots of time, lots of money, and it's not winning us any jackpots.
So true.
It's funny. I had
just on that for a second, because if you're Christopher Columbus and somebody gives you a map, you suddenly stop being the explorer. You're now a traveler. Okay? And if somebody says to you, let's have a conversation, and these are the guidelines of the conversation, and this is where it's going to end up, and this is the things we're going to talk about, that's not a conversation. This is a monologue coming from somebody else who's just giving you a skeleton, and you get the opportunity to add some flesh.
It's a report.
That's not a generative conversation. The generative conversation is you're standing on the coast, you're looking out in the briny blue, and you're saying, okay, let's go. I'm going to bring some company with me because I want to have a chat. Yeah. I'm going to need some help. I'm going to need some support. I'm going to need some contribution from others. I don't know what that is. I don't know what we'll need. I don't know where we're going to get to. Well, that's where the value is created. And if somebody's coming to you with a marketing program and saying, here's a template, this is ultimate success, in 10 seconds, just press the button. Okay. Yeah, I don't think that's going to work either.
I haven't seen it work.
It sounds like what we need is a high level of courage and a high level of empathy. There's empathy to connect, right, and to be able to do that, but also the courage to try and explore and go beyond the known path. But you need both, right? Just saying I want to do something different just for the sake of being different, well, good luck, right? That might not bring you where you want to be. So you want to have enough empathy to get a feel for this space feels right. But on the other hand, you need to have the courage to go off the beaten path and explore. Yeah.
I like that a lot. Go Morley. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. I was just thinking. Well, you go, Jen, and I'll.
This is what we do, friends. We just like, you go. No, you go.
Everything every person says triggered something for everybody.
Exactly.
You just have to get in there.
Yeah.
Do my research.
Well, so what I just want to highlight is that I think what we're talking about and around is maybe like, I think we're programmed in our traditional corporate world and the Western world to prioritize and incentivize competence, right? Real or perceived, right? You don't actually have to be competent to appear so and get promotions and bonuses and all these things, right? There's not really a proof of concept that has to happen there. And what I'm more interested in is not competence. I want to be in conversation and in working relationships with people who are committed to learning. That's what I want instead of competence. I want somebody who is saying, like, I don't need to control this conversation. I want to discover in this conversation. I'll totally hang out in the uncomfortable space of I don't know where we're going or what we're doing if it means that I'm actually going to learn something new and discover something new. And I think a huge component of that, at least that I see in the work I do, is that human beings, we aren't taught the actual skills to better linger in discomfort. Like we aren't taught that, but I believe we can be. We can build those muscles of like, how do I stay in this unease for just a little bit longer? Not because I want to appear or assume I am competent, but because I want to learn. That's why I'm here. I'm coming to the edge of the map, right? Christopher Columbus gave me this map and it isn't complete. That stinks. Okay, well, I want to go to the edge of the map with someone else who's also into being on the edge of the map and being like, well, now what do we do? Like that. I want to be with people who are committed to learning beyond competence, because I think that's where the new stuff is. I think that's where the adventure is. I think that's where the humanity is. And that's where we can really, hopefully, a dent I'm trying to make in the world is to redefine what leaders need to have to make real contributions. And it's not necessarily competence, in my view. I think that's something that can be, that's a lovely byproduct. But I think being a good learner and being committed to learning is something that's going to carry a person much farther than a commitment to a static view of competence. Okay.
So let me bring something else in here, because it's the second time the conversation around leaders has come up. And how much should a leader show? It goes back to vulnerability for me, and that ability to be able to be yourself. Staff don't have communication. Staff don't have conversations. Boss and employee don't have conversations. It's actually the humans that are having the conversations. So allow the humans to have the conversation. Allow the people to talk. It doesn't matter whether what you're talking about is crazy and you shouldn't be talking about it at work. The fact is, it's two human beings having an open conversation. They're engaging in that conversation. And it's that level of vulnerability that I think we're afraid to show at times.
Yeah.
Well, and I think it's not reflected in the structure either, right? When we get too focused on the structure. Like one of the best examples I'm thinking of is I worked in a corporate retail environment, and I played basketball with a couple of the guys who worked in the fleet. So they deliver the furniture. And I remember us having this conversation one day about how the way that they map out the routes is ridiculous, right? And these guys are actually driving the routes. Like they're the ones who have good feedback. And so me being the one whose dad was a VP and you just tell the VP things, right? Which was not the structure, but was my interpretation of the structure. It was like, well, why don't you just tell the VP of transportation that? And they're like, we're not allowed to talk to the VP. And I was like, what? So like we're here just like in a basketball context, and all this stuff is like so easily coming up, and it is not allowed to flow through the organization. Like that is nuts. I'm gonna go tell the VP. Right? I'm more of a ask for forgiveness, not perversion kind of person. But like there's like so much of that structure and hierarchy that actually actively disables that instead of promotes the possibility of those doors being open, and then the answers get just smushed. They're all in there within the organization. They're sitting that probably they haven't changed that system yet, and that knowledge was available 20 years ago.
Wow.
Right? Like within your organization, not from outside somewhere, just within. You're not either not listening, or you've built so much structure that listening has become impossible. It's like boggles my mind. Still boggles my mind.
Are you saying therefore that fear kills these conversations?
Yeah, and I like the word that you used earlier, John, of courage, right? Because how you battle fear is with courage, not with, you don't get the full competence or confidence from fear. You have to start with courage. I have to show up and be like, well, I was thinking that, and I've never said that I like your scarf to the person in the line next to me at the coffee shop, but I'm going to say it today because, like, what's the risk? Like, the risks are so low. And so then when we practice those skills in low risk environments, then we can bring them into those higher risk environments. But if we don't practice them in a low risk environment, and like, then I'm like, can we create more low risk environments where people can practice these skills so they can get good at saying like, well, so I've been in this role for like 8 years, and this is a friction point that I see with our customers on the daily. Maybe we could make it not a friction point. Right? And those types of things, like I would like to believe that most people are like, yes, I would, but yes, please. I didn't see that friction point. I didn't even know that friction point existed. Can we please explore how we might do that? Thank you for bringing it up. I actually think that there's a lot of leaders who would be more open to that. And I think there's also more things leaders can do, can create the space for those types of things. But like, at the end of the day, it also takes all of us being like, I'm going to be brave and show up here and believe that I can add value, even though I have no agenda. So I don't know what my ROI to the conversation will be, but I believe in it.
I read something recently that caught my attention, and it's at a different scale to what you're talking about, Tracy, but I think it's for me, it's in the same realm. It was saying that if you go back over the last 500, 600 years, we had the Renaissance, and the transformation, the Reformation, and then, you know, the discovery of new worlds, and then the Industrial Revolution, and then democracy came on board, and then world wars, and then space exploration. And all of a sudden, there's this crisis because the big things they've been explored, the big physical things. And so we move into this digital realm, and suddenly the number of people that can actually explore them goes from this to this in one extent. And I kind of look at that and go, ooh, interesting, because I get that. But on the other hand, then that allows us to actually turn inside and have a look and say, ooh, what in all that time have we not explored about ourselves? And what capacity exists in there? And I think that's really interesting. And I think that sometimes comes with companies that got to grow. And I said, well, hang on a second. How are you defining that growth? Because that's sometimes seems like a really simple, arbitrary explanation of growth, like more market share or, you know, kill off my competitor. But life is, it's complex. And nature is complex, not simple. And so, yeah, that's striking me as we kind of look at all these things come together.
Okay, but then wait, John, are you telling me that all this effort I put into creating certainty in my sales and marketing funnel is just inherently complex and might be a waste of time?
Yes.
Hey, I didn't say it, folks. I didn't say it. I just asked the
Didn't type
question.
it out loud there, Tracy.
I may or may not have framed that question in a very specific way. But I just want to tie in here a couple things that are happening in the chats. Like Elsie is saying, this high trust and high self-trust context, right? If we're not in the practice of building self-trust, we can't go into a high trust context and perform well. It doesn't make sense. And Matt is sharing here too, the value is hard to measure, so it's easily discounted by the organization. Similar to innovation, the accounting systems aren't designed to measure value of learning and connecting. And I want to dive into what you were saying, Jen, about the learning, but I want to split this up, because earlier today I was having a conversation with a friend about knowledge, and I was like, no, scratch that. I don't want knowledge anymore, right? Like, I want wisdom. Wisdom is information in a context that's usable, right?
Yeah.
And we are living in a world where there's lots of information. It's very easy access to information, and learning, I mean, even in organizations I've worked for before, the concept of learning is consuming information. Right? So take this negotiation course, take this Facebook ads course, right? Like we're collecting information, but the information we're collecting isn't being used because we don't know how to use it. Or like, I've also been in learning scenarios where I get sent to like Dale Carnegie training and I come back with like a whole bunch of stuff that I'm super excited to use, and then they're like, no, you can't like do any of that here. Why did you spend $3,000 sending me on this training program? So frustrating. But like, the other word you used was discovery, right? And I think right now, learning and discovery are not the same, or to me, they don't have the same energy behind them, right? Like when I think about discovery, it's like, I want to go find out something that I don't know, right? And there's that like desire that goes behind it. So you have a personal reason that you want to go and discover that. Columbus had a personal reason why he wanted to sail to China, right? And then he just happened to find North America in the middle. But like, when you have that personal desire, when you're Paul standing and looking out at the briny blue, as he called it, and like, I want to go out there. Not everyone would stand there and want to go out there, right? There'd be a lot of people who are like, that looks terrifying. I'm going to go back over here. But when you have that spark behind your curiosity, that's where I think discovery and therefore wisdom becomes possible, which is different than learning. And I think now in corporate environments, we've also structured learning to the degree where we're like, this isn't useful anymore, right? Like, okay, it's one thing to say like, we deal with hazardous chemicals and you need to do your WMIS training. Okay, good. Yep. I want people to know what explodes and what doesn't explode. But like when it comes to how we behave as humans, how we work together, how we collaborate, how ecosystem networks evolve, right? Like just not curriculum. There's like a lot more that goes into it. And we can't just consume everything in a like 20-minute Facebook course, right? Like, let's stop pretending that we can't.
So let me add a couple of things to that, because I've had this conversation with Mr. Morley already. Discovery takes time. Okay, and I think the present world doesn't allow for time to take its course, and we get short bursts of knowledge which instantly gratify us, and we act on that knowledge, and we think we are satisfied by that situation. For me, I think we're moving from a phase of the knowledge economy through to the wisdom economy, where the voice of experience, the voice of time served, the voice of life actually starts to add more value. And people are recognizing that it's not just about transferring knowledge or groups learning from each other, because when you get groups learning from each other, the highest common denominator you can get to is the person with the highest level of knowledge. And there are times that you actually need to interrupt that with some lived experience, some wisdom that comes in and gives a color, a structure, a meaning, a depth to that knowledge, so that people start to experience it rather than just, as you say, I'm going to do the hazardous chemicals course in 20 minutes, tick that box, I'm done. I can't remember what I learned.
Yeah.
And if you look at those people on whom we rely on a day-to-day basis, the emergency services, the fire service, the ambulance people, the army, the police, they spend years training together to build up that collected wisdom of how they're going to interact and how they can rely on each other and how they can trust each other. It's not done in 20 minutes. And then we can rely on them.
Totally.
I can't build my relations by just ordering them on Amazon and have them delivered the next day.
Sorry.
I got, let me just like quickly go to Matt, extending the explorer metaphor. And sorry, the post is so long, it covers some of our faces. Roger Martin has written about explore and exploit in an organization. Few explorers ever get the benefits of their discovery. The exploiters work to make the most of what positive, valuable assets created by the explorers. Exploiting, extracting value is a safer path for most employees. And yet, if we don't have the explorers, then there's nothing to exploit.
So I've John, go ahead.
No, go ahead, John.
Sorry, I feel it's good to know Matt. I feel really strongly about what Matt highlighted because I worked for an organization for years that valued the explorers and put us in customer marketing roles. And our job was to explore with people live, with salespeople in the room, so that the exploit opportunities emerged from the explorative conversations. That was fantastic. Too few organizations that I've experienced since create the space for that to happen. Explore and exploit go together wonderfully in any kind of innovation strategy, but I sense at the moment we're heavily in an exploit scenario rather than that balance, and we have to have that balance. And not everybody's going to show up on the explicitly measurable exploit side, but we've got to get that balance back because that's where growth comes from. That's where all the opportunities come from. Get off my soapbox now.
Building on what you're saying, John, and taking Matt's thought a step further, I've always learned in the corporate world that you have ballet dancers and ice hockey players. And the ballet dancers are the ones, we need to launch this product. It's going to happen in February 1. We've promised it, and everybody does this dance, and we all show up at the right moment with the right product, right? And then you have the ice hockey players that do a full body check, left or right. They throw in and they dare to challenge, right, the assumptions. And you need them both, but they don't necessarily get really well along, right? It tends to be a slightly different DNA set or whatever you want to call it in the process. So I think that's part of what innovation needs to be. There needs to be enough disruption, but on the other hand, you also want to deliver the business, right, on the current moment. So it's that tension between, I think you used the word discovery, innovation, curiosity, courage, and messy, which is all on one side, and the other one is the predictability, the fear, the structure, the top down. That's on the other side. And in most companies, you'll have a bit of both, right? It's that challenge.
I think it's interesting because it makes me think of professional sport, right? And like, I'm Canadian, so hockey, it's a thing. Although I've never played hockey myself. I tried to shoot the puck once from the blue line. It's surprisingly difficult. But there's an inherent, so if I'm a basketball player. So when I play basketball, there's me and my team. And we can work on plays and we can work on structure, and people have positions, and some people are playing down low and some people playing at high. Some people, we have different speeds, right? And we optimize for our team. But at the same time, I don't control the other team at all, right? So there's like this, a building, we do create the like, this is our ideal way we do things as a team. I mean, you could call it a culture, right? But like, this is the skill set we have. We are specifically fast, so we're going to build our game plan around outrunning the other team. But like, I don't know every other team is different, and who they have show up to play today is different. And sometimes people are sick, and sometimes the refs are having bad days, and like all of these things I don't control. And so there's this like cool balance in sport between that. We know we have to have a structure. I'm probably not going to win if I have 5 centers on the court. I probably want to have someone who's a ball handler, right? But like at the same time, I don't control. Once I'm on the court, I don't control most of it. I've done my control, and now I've moved into how do I interact with the unpredictability. And so I think that that's something from an organizational or ecosystem point of view is interesting to look at. Are we creating space for both of those things? Or are we saying we're just going to have structure and pretend that we can control what the other team is doing? Good luck with that.
Totally. And I think what you're naming is that human beings, when we are tired, when we're stressed, when we're uncertain, we want to do the easy stuff. So we want the concrete things. We want to measure stuff. We want to see that it's going up. We want to do all these things, and we don't want to be bothered by the energy ask of dealing with what is nebulous and like, I don't know where this is going to go. And so I really appreciate what you're calling our attention to, Tracy, is like, do we value all of it? Because I think we probably ought to, is my bias. And then is that reflected in our cultural norms? So in any context, right? How do we make space then for the things that we value? Do we make space for dissenting opinions? Not a lot of places actively do that, or they reluctantly do it, and then kind of, there's a weird shaming thing involved, right? Well, that to me, we can call a little BS on that. Wow, it sounds like you actually don't value that as much as you claim to, because you're not making space for it. You're not making it safe enough for people to show up in that way. And, that can happen in so many places. But I think what you're calling us, what I hear the invitation as from you is like, yeah, how do we value it all and then support ourselves with the practices and structures and rhythms that make that possible?
And so with that, okay, go, John. And then I want to wrap up because we have 6 minutes left.
Very quick. I'm picking up on Jen's comment about the dissenting voice, and I really like that. I'm a big believer in a reframe. And I think a dissenting voice is a fabulous opportunity to explore and innovate. And you don't view it as that negative voice. You view it as something else we haven't explored yet. So I just wanted to add that in the thought.
It made me think of, I don't know if any of you guys are fans of the American version of The Office, but there's an episode where they have like a feedback box. And Michael Scott is going through it, and he's like, that one doesn't matter. That one does. And they're like, that was my feedback. He's like, no, that's not real. You're like, I feel this speaks very clearly. Sometimes the most comedic things can actually teach us, like, are we doing that though? Maybe we're doing that. Maybe we don't want to be doing that.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I love about this conversation, we tried really hard in the comments to get to 100 comments. I don't think we did.
Yes.
There were really great comments in the comments. Thank you guys for participating so much on that level. We talked about a lot of things today, and we talk about a lot of things on this show. It's what happens in generative conversations. And sometimes we can get lost in like the bigness of it. So if each of you was going to take a thing that somebody could try on, we're not giving you answers here, people, but something you could try on if creating more power around generative stations is in your wheelhouse right now. What is one thing that each of you would say people could try? If you
and
have
you're asking
one,
us, not the commenters, right?
if the commenters have comments too, please share them because maybe we'll even learn something.
Yes.
And we have a lot of experts. There's a lot of experts in this chat today, folks. Thank you for spending your time with us, experts, because I know experts have much they can do with their time, and it's really meaningful when you guys join us live. So please share your comments as well. But panel, what are your thoughts?
So my thought on that is very simple, because it's a source of frustration for me. And John van der Linden said it earlier that his kids, who are younger than me, younger than mine, get irritated by the fact that van der Linden's standing in the shop and he's chatting to half a dozen people. And A, they're embarrassed. B, they don't want to know him. And C, they'd really like not to be there. Okay, and I've been through decades of that, and I still get it. And the power that I think we should be imparting is this: how can we get that anxious generation to take their headphones off, with their phone in their pocket, and just have a conversation, which doesn't involve a keypad, it doesn't involve abbreviations or emoji, it just involves words and engagement. And if we could start that, I think we could recover a lot of lost time.
Just gonna throw one little wrench in that, because I also believe you can have generative conversations with headphones on. Just saying, but the approach, I'm with you on like the practice. What else, Jen?
Dare to be wrong, and what I mean, I don't only mean that you're wrong, but also that you're willing to assume that you might be wrong. I often get stuck with my own rights, and then as a result, I don't go into that generative, environment and space because I don't dare to believe that I'm wrong, or giving myself the assumption that, you know what, I might be completely off of this one. I'd like to do that more often.
I think that framing creates more permission for all of the parties, right? Yeah. Because when you bring that kind of perspective into a room, not only are you allowing yourself to have your perspectives changed, but you create the space that allow other people to have their perspectives changed as well.
Thank you, Tracy. Yeah.
And actually, John, you rescued me tonight, because I nearly had a reaction tonight. On a previous call, we were getting a bit of criticism about something that I had written, and I thought, what is going on? And you said, great, thank you. And I thought, yep, that's the reaction. Shut up.
It wasn't. I told you already, this isn't client facing.
I think I was on that call. I think I was there for that moment. It was.
Yes, you were. Yes,
I heard your background words. And
I
yes,
really
John
said something, and then I thought, no, John's going to say something. I'll shut up. And he just killed it off. And I thought, that's great, because you know the industry better than I do. So.
Teamwork makes the dream work. Okay, Jen.
Go, Morley. Oh, me? Okay. I have two things. I'm gonna say the two. But so first thing that I think people could do immediately to try to create or to step into these generative conversations is just be human first. Like, before you're doing anything else, just be a human being with another human being, and like count that as success. If a connection was made, great. And then I think the other one is something that can be fun. It can be like this playful game of being relentless in a search for possibility. So like, I do this with my daughter, I do this like with myself, I do this in lots of places, like for my own amusement, but to build my own muscle of like, what is possible now? So like, I was human with the person next door in the coffee shop line, and they clearly don't want to talk to me. Okay, what's possible now? Oh, I can see if I want to break through. I can double down on that and put this poor person, in more discomfort. Or I can say, wow, I wonder what signal I might have missed from this person that they might not have been open to that. What can I tune my radar to now that I wasn't tracking before? Right? That's a possibility. What else might be going on for that person? And so it can be a beautiful way of practicing our way into a different mindset. And the cool part is it can involve other people, and it also doesn't have to. You can do it all the way inside yourself. No one will ever know that you're practicing this new game. But to be on the hunt for possibilities, to catch the scent in the wind, gets really fun, because then you can really there might be a moment where you're like, well, what if? And then you might share that possibility, and then off you are. So be human first and practice the relentless search for possibility.
I think you just revealed, Jen, why you and I are friends.
Yes. Lucky me. Lucky me.
All right, wrap it up there, John Morley.
Oh gosh, I can't top that. I have two words, and Jen covered it beautifully, as did John and Paul. And I'm borrowing my two words from somebody else who recently said to me, "Notice more."
Oh, yeah.
That
Yes.
Okay.
I
Good
think
one.
I'm going to layer onto that and say slow down because
Yeah.
I feel like when we're trying to rush to whatever, we're trying to rush to a sales number, we're trying to rush to a destination, we miss the things. And if we're going to notice more, we have to slow down.
Yeah.
And if the amount of things we were able to notice because we slowed down can then demonstrate to us the value of slowing down, well, now we have a different way to look at things. And whether you're looking at that in terms of what you're trying to achieve from marketing, or whether you're trying to solve the most wicked problems that our world is experiencing today, like there's so much goodness in the in between. Right?
Mhm.
So let's stop.
oops.
Oops.
Uh-oh.
And on that note,
Let's stop. And she did.
You did. That was good timing, Tracy.
She's such a pro.
I think that's the
Oh,
end.
no.
Well,
Was
Oh,
it me?
there you
It was me.
There she's
I
back.
think I'm back. We're having like a legit snowstorm here, so that was me. But like, there's so much good stuff. Let's find the good stuff. There's value in that stuff. Go find it. Go find one. Go find one valuable night. Oh, and LinkedIn user is sharing advice from Ted Lasso. Stay curious, less judgmental.
There we go.
hey Tracy,
Curiosity always wins, I think.
is it too late
Yes.
to throw one other little comment in the mix? Just on
It's
something.
never too late. It's just we'll respect that if people had a hard stop that they're leaving us now. But you can always come back and watch the replay. So hit it, John.
Absolutely, and I hate to write on. Ted Lasso should be where we stop probably, but there's just something that came to mind in what you said, and that is, and I go back to Martin Knox's mantra, which I love: the show up, be present, tell the truth. And sometimes that means we got to let something go. And I think that's one of those things. I read something about being the agent of our own experience means we always have choice, but they're not always pleasant choices, but we do have choice. And so that's one of those things is, might have to let something go, but then it opens everything. So.
Oh. Well, and that also, just because Jen used the what if question, this reminds me of my favorite question is, what do you wonder? Right? Like, what are you curious about? Right? Like, if we have this seemingly group of choices, which are not the best choices, right? Like, if I can come at those and I can get curious about the choices from what I wonder, then I can find the best choice for me. But if I've layered on everyone else's questions, then the best case scenario, I'm finding out what's best for them. And if this is a choice for me, then I got to figure out what's best for me. So what do you wonder about those options? And ask it. And now we're in question asking mode. So I feel like we could go for another hour on the questions you could ask.
Yeah. Beware.
In generative conversations. But those open-ended questions. Have some fun. Play with it. I love that you said that, Jen. Play, right? Like, find a place where you can play with those safe environments. And then when you need to, you can take those into the more serious places. I had no doubt that this was going to be an amazing conversation today, and it was. So thank you, John, Paul, John, and Jen. So that is actually not the easiest thing to say. My name is the odd one out in this category for sure. But I love it. And I'm like just so grateful to have all of you in my generative conversations, the like stuff that becomes possible when you have awesome people just like who want to contribute awesomely to what is next, whatever that is. It just is a game changer. So go find your people, get into the conversations. As I always say on this show, if the topic of today, generative conversations, is on your roadmap, please do not let this be the last conversation you have about generative conversations. Complete antithesis of what we talked about today. Get into more conversations, connect with any one of us. We're clearly open to having conversations, and like, let's go explore what's possible. Because if we don't have it yet, then we better go figure it out.
Yeah.
Have a great one. Happy holidays, everyone. This is the last show of the Crazy Stupid Marketing Show for 2025. The fact that it lined up with 100, not intentionally, is just kind of magical. So thank you for joining us today, everyone in the chat. It was so amazing to have you all. And until next year, permission to do you. Bye, everyone.